Amen.
Amen.
Right, so we've been discussing the concept of dispensationalism. And we saw that a dispensation is simply like a period of time in which God is dealing with his people in a specific way. Where God is working with his people in a certain way. We read in the Wikipedia definition. It says dispensationalism considers biblical history as divided by God into dispensations, which are defined periods or ages to which God has allotted distinctive administrative principles. Right, so God is working with his people in, we use the examples of the Old and the New Testament. We also use the example of the sanctuary as laying out 3 dispensations. And we spoke about the importance of when you have a passage, you don't just read it at face value. There are a number of things to consider if you want to correctly understand it. And one of those things, you have to consider the dispensation which it was written. We did that with Leviticus as an example. An example that we all understand and accept. And you not only have to consider the dispensation of the passage you're reading, but when you read the passage, you also have to understand what are the characteristics of the dispensation that you're in. So now, when we looked at the line of restoration for gender, we see that in our dispensation, full equality is present truth. So that full equality is present truth has implications. It means women can be part of the priesthood, they can be elders. Right, so this is the characteristic of our time right now. So we need to factor that in when we read passages that were written in the time of the outer court or in the time of the holy place. Where Paul said an elder or bishop is to be a man, a husband of one wife. Right, we need to think about we need to consider what is written in the past dispensation and what principles apply in our dispensation. And however we approach it, we have to be consistent. We can't say we'll accept this approach here and not accept it here when it doesn't suit us.
your facts and the bra. The beer is now, then you can say, Yefa.
Closely, there's someone else looking for in the room because they asked a question, and then I said I would answer the question because I think other people may have that question. So I see that they're here as well, so I'll speak to them. So that's as far as we got with our last study. Now I'm going to come back to it.
Yes,
but before I do, I'm going to take a test to answer a question that was asked. But given that it was asked by one person, I thought maybe other people have it as well. And it's an important concept to correctly understand. The question was asked that, from November 9th, is there any more intercession for sins?
It was every November 9th February.
And this is an important question because it's also a point of difference between us and Future for America. Right. So, did November 9 mark the end of intercession for the priests?
November 9th, any church war, you buy a priest is what I need to be my one.
Firstly, where do we get the history of the priests from? It's a fractal of the land of 144,000.
Say a 144,000 or more now,
and the way marks in the land of 144,000 is 1989.
The kind of kind of 144 is in 1989.
9/11. Sunday law.
Sunday law.
Close of probation.
Close of probation.
Second coming. Here's the way marks in the land of 144,000.
It's 144,000 or more.
And the line of the priest is a fractal of this line.
It's a bar as a company for the swap or more free a year 144.
And the way marks are 1989, 9/11, 2014, 2019, and 2021.
And 2021.
Right. So, in this fractal, the second coming typifies 2021. Rather, 2021 is, the second coming typifies 2021.
Second coming, 2021
The close of probation, 2019.
Close of probation and 2019
Sunday law, 2014.
Sunday law, 2014.
Of course, 9/11 and 9/11.
9/11 and 9/11.
1989 and 1989.
And 1989.
So people know this, they see this. They see that the close of probation parallel lines up with 2019.
When we say close of probation in 2019,
and they know that at the close of probation, this is the end of intercession.
So
then they ask the question, so that must mean 2019 is also the end of intercession.
Dima tucha wa hayendi otumwa for be stand so na go 2019
all these first things in 2019 you see one.
Right, so we need, and that's what we previously understood.
Saa na yɛte aseɛ ɛwɔ bere bi no.
That's what we understood when we. That's all we understood. I think as soon as last year, that's how we understand it.
Ɛbɛrɛ ma yɛte aseɛ no ɛyɛ 2018 ɛna yɛte saa asɛm wɔ yɛn.
But as we look at these lines more closely, we see that it's not that simple.
Sɛ yɛhwɛ ɛkwan ne yie paa ɛnyɛ mmerɛsa.
We need to understand the relationship between these waymarks and the fractal.
Ɛwɔ sɛ yɛhu nsonsoyɛ a ɛda saa akwan ne mmienu mu ɛne kyikyiri mu.
And the waymarks that typify it.
Ɛne ɛkwan na ɛne ne kɔ.
The waymarks that tell us about these waymarks.
Ɛkwan a ɛne wei sɛ ne so deɛ ɛka fa ho.
Right, we need to understand the relationship between them.
Ɛwɔ sɛ yɛhu nsonsoyɛ ɛtantɛ.
Because they're not the same thing.
Ɛsiane sɛ ɛnyɛ pɛ ne mmienu nyɛ pɛ.
Alright, so the second coming is the second coming. The second coming, yes?
Second coming, second coming now.
Lines up with 2021.
I name 2021 there.
But is 2021 the second coming?
But you know, as a designer said, 2021 second coming.
No. Christ is not coming in 2021.
Yes, what about 2021?
Right? So I think you see that the close of probation.
Yahoo says you do a very much better.
This is Daniel 12:1.
And one Daniel chapter 12 verse 1.
And Daniel 12:1 happens after the Sunday law.
Daniel chapter 12 verse 1.
Daniel 12:1 happens after Daniel 11 verse 40.
Daniel chapter 12 verse 1. Eba Ansana Daniel 41.
Because Daniel verse 41, this is the Sunday law.
Daniel chapter 11 verse 41 Sunday law.
So when we come to, so over here the line of 144,000, this is the close of probation.
So yeba ekwan kese pa na ehonu mo ne ebredi ma to be.
It lines up with 2019.
Every 2019 level.
Is 2019 Daniel 12:1?
2019 Daniel chapter 12 verse 1.
No, it isn't. In fact, the entire line of the priests.
So yefa asofo company for no kwan ni na.
The entire history of the priests, all of it is in Daniel 11 verse 40.
Sa abakosem ni nyina ejina Daniel chapter 11 verse 40.
Right? So we see that these waymarks, they give us these waymarks close of probation, second coming. They line up with 2019, 2021.
2019 2021.
But they're not these waymarks.
And also no, and let's say 2019 2021. The close of probation is Sunday law.
Same thing with the Sunday law. Which is Daniel 11 verse 41.
Daniel chapter 11 verse 41.
It lines up with 2014.
And in 2014,
but 2014 is not Daniel 11 verse 41.
And I'm going to say 2014, Daniel chapter 11 verse 41.
Right, so if we wanted, there's only one place in our line where Michael stands up. And that's in Daniel 12:1 at the close of probation.
Daniel chapter 12 verse 1.
Right, so when we look at these waymarks here, they are not these waymarks. What they do is they give us characteristics, is that what happens in 2021 has characteristics of what happens at the second coming. But it's not the second coming. What happens in 2019 has characteristics of what happens at the close of probation. But it's not the close of probation. Same with 2014. What happens in 2014 has characteristics of the Sunday law, but it's not the Sunday law.
saa nso so ne ɛba 2014 a deɛ esi wɔ hɔ no yɛbɛhu ne suban bi wɔ Sunday law na ne kyerɛ sɛ 2014 Sunday law.
If we want to insist that the close of probation here is just like here,
sɛ yɛkɔka ne pɛi ɛkɔka sɛ close of probation a ɛwɔ ha sei no ɛno a na ɛwɔ ha
then we
deɛ
have to say the second coming here is just like here.
ɛne ɛba sa na ɛwɔ sɛ yɛkɔka sɛ second coming no ɛno 2021
And we know that's not correct.
yɛdi tum sɛ ɛno nso nyɛ no pɛ.
So what do we mean when we say that these waymarks have characteristics of these waymarks?
ɛdi sɛ yɛba sɛ akwan no ebiara ne ebi wɔ ne sunsuanso a yɛbi si ɛkyerɛ sɛ
Well, you look what happens at the second coming.
deɛ na esi ɛwɔ second coming.
At the second coming, you see God's people are glorified.
sɛ yɛba Yesu ba yɛ ɛtɔ so mmienu na yɛhunu sɛ Onyankopɔn nkurɔfoɔ ne yɛhyɛ wɔn animuonyam.
Right? And the world sees them
Wiase no nso mu wɔn
in their glorified bodies.
ɛwɔ ɔmo ɛwedeɛ na n'asɔ ɔmo honam na ahyɛ animuonyam.
We see that Christ raises the dead.
Yɛhunu sɛ Yesu opagya wɔn a wɔwu no
They come to life.
na ɔmo aba nkwa.
So when we look at 2021,
sɛ yɛba 2021
what are we going to see that looks like what happens at the second coming?
deɛ na ɛbɛma yɛhunu wɔ 2021 a ɛne second coming no
We're going to see God's people glorified,
yɛbɛhu Onyankopɔn nkurɔfoɔ sɛ yɛama wɔn so.
right? By before the world, by the message that they are proclaiming.
Yɛbɛma wɔn so ama wiase no nyinaa mu ɛwɔ nkanse bɛkita wɔn.
The prophecies they've taught and the predictions that they've made.
ɛwɔ nkɔmhyɛ ne nsɛm a wɔn aka ɛbɛ mu.
As these things come to pass, they're going to be raised up before the eyes of the world.
sɛ saa nsɛm no nyinaa bɛ mu a ɛno na yɛbɛma wɔn so ama wiase no nyinaa hu so wɔn.
Where before they were hidden.
ɛbura ne ehunu sɛ yɛde wɔn si.
And they're going to give a living testimony.
wɔn bɛma adansidie ɛti ase.
Right? So we see that the things at the second coming, what happens in 2021, it has characteristics of what happens at the second coming.
eti de ehunu wɔ 2021 no yɛwɔ ne suban bi a ɛwɔ second coming.
What do you mean when we say 2019 has characteristics of the close of probation?
sɛ yɛka sɛ 2019 ɔwɔ suban bi a ɛwɔ close of probation yɛpɛ sɛ yɛkyerɛ sɛ.
We know it's not the close of probation.
yɛnim sɛ ɛyɛ ɛbrɛ bi ma to twa.
But what happens at the close of probation?
ɛdeɛ na esi ɛwɔ ɛbrɛ bi ma to twa.
At the close of probation, you have two classes separated,
yɛduru baabi a ebi ma to twa na yɛhunu nkurɔfoɔ mmienu wɔ hɔ.
and there's no more work that can be done for either of those two classes.
na saa bɛrɛ no yɛni adwuma bi a yɛbɛyɛ ama nkurɔfoɔ mmienu.
Right? Their fate is sealed for eternity.
ɔmo gyidie no ɛto atwa ɛkɔsi daa.
What happens here that looks like that?
deɛ na ɛwɔ 2019 ɛkyerɛ sɛ anaasɛ ɛne close of probation no ɛyɛ pɛ.
You see two classes separated.
yɛhunu sɛ yɛkyɛ nkurɔfoɔ no mu.
That's what has happened.
saa na esi.
And I don't think it's over. I think that separation is still happening.
na ɔnye ni yie sɛ saa ɛtitimu na egu so no ɛto atwa na emu egu so a ɛkɔ.
But in terms of the understandings that the two classes have developed,
sɛ ɛkɔba sɛ yɛte aseɛ ɛwɔ kwan a saa nkurɔfoɔ mmienu no ɔmo fa so epie na.
one class has developed an understanding where they can't come back to the truth.
baako ɛdeɛ ne sɛ ɔmo firi nukurɛ no ho na ɔmo mɛpie.
They've gone so far in rejecting the truth
ɔmo kɔ so a ɔmo ɛte ɛyɛ nukurɛ no ho etu na ɔmo pie.
and filling their mind with false messages
na ɔmo adwene mu no so na ɔmo de trɔnko ana ehyɛ.
that they can no longer receive the truth, they can no longer accept it.
ɛntumi nkɔba sɛ ɔmo bɛgye nukurɛ no ato nsi.
Right? That's not to say that God has, it's different from saying that Michael has stood up.
sɛ ɛkɔba saa na yɛntumi ɛnkɔka sɛ saa bɛrɛ no Michael wɔ so.
It's different from saying Michael has stood up. They put themselves in a position where God can't reach them.
ɔmo na ɛde ɔmo akɔ gyina bere bi a Onyankopɔn ntumi ɛntoa ɔmo bi.
Right? So when that separation happens, those people who've gone, they're not coming back.
sɛ saa tete mu ne ba ɔmo a ɔmo apue kɔ no
And they're not going to come back to the message. They put themselves in that position. Not necessarily that Michael has stood up. So when we see it, it looks like a close of probation. Right, does that make sense?
Yes.
Right, so, but it is not literally a close of probation in the sense that moral intercession intercession for sins has not ended. So if you've developed the understanding in this time period where you're able to continue walking with the advance in life,
2019 no
you've passed the test of this close of probation. Right, it's about the message. You've passed the prophetic test. And you're able to continue. It does not mean that Christ has stopped interceding. If you fall into sin now, there's still forgiveness for sin. Because this intercession does not end until Daniel 12:1. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's dealing with the message and not a moral intercession, not the moral. Alright, so that was the question that was asked. I hope we understand. Because it's a very serious thing to feel that your intercession has ended. Because we don't want anyone to sin. But what happens if you fall into sin? If you believe intercession is over, you'll then think you're lost. And imagine a human being feeling that they've lost their salvation.
Now,
the person can lose hope, give up on life. Go into depression, maybe even kill themselves. You know, it's a serious, it's a dangerous doctrine. But that's what FFA is teaching.
Now, your private flag, we say,
they're saying November 9, 2019 was an end of moral intercession.
November 9, 2014. 2019, and you will be a priest. You need
that 2019 was the end of intercession.
You will be a holy man.
Right, so you know, you then have to decide what you're going to believe.
It's a was already there, and I was a good and ask
right, what makes sense?
Yeah.
You have to decide what makes sense. Okay, so having answered that question, we can come back to what we're looking at here on dispensation. But there was another question I said I'd answer, now I can't remember it.
Was it a simple now?
My brother, what was it that I said I'd answer? Because we were talking.
Okay. Let me say equality, a beginning from
Was that the one?
John the Baptist.
Was it a
okay. I remember. I had equality. I can remember. So some people misunderstood what I was communicating here. That here in this outer court phase, I was saying male priesthood only by circumcision.
It was say about a demon would do a day now. Nay, a member one and a yash of four. It's not the new talk.
And here I was saying male priesthood only by baptism.
And I have to know come and that was a sumo.
That's not what I was saying.
And then he has a man.
What we're doing is we're tracing two concepts through this history.
If you don't walk on the air, and your man, the free as say,
The first is the priesthood.
The didn't kind of your mammy, didn't kind of yash of four.
And the second is the covenant.
You don't you know, as we are.
So I'm not saying male only priesthood by circumcision.
And yet your personal chair said, a man and one a year so for I was saying you told it.
We're saying two concepts, the priesthood and the covenant.
And you have a run walk on one simple thing, a year as of any a year upon.
With the priesthood, it's male only.
Ah, your boss of putting one, a member.
And with the covenant, it's male only.
Ah, a black one answer, no, a permanent solo. Nay, I
And when we come to the next dispensation,
say about dispensation to me, you know, so.
we're not saying male only priesthood through baptism.
No, that's what I say. The men I want is be a software, it's not on with me about it.
We're saying with the priesthood, it's male only.
Now, a man I want is me a software.
And with the covenant, it's now men and women.
By a year, a family Diana, a man women in our family.
And we can do the same for our dispensation.
It's the same every
Number one, the priesthood, it's men and women.
Yaba as of quality to me, a man and women now to be so.
And with the covenant, it's also men and women.
A man and a man and a woman.
Alright, so for those who misunderstood that, I hope that clarifies them.
It's one and watch a dancing, Sass and now walk and watch that.
Okay, so we've been discussing dispensationalism.
It's now, yes, actually, a year dispensation
As a concept in methodology.
Now, yes, let me say a young your first one.
I want to discuss a related concept.
Or the dear and no, I say, and I said, you know, a boy,
which is historic context.
I a friend about 7.
Ellen White says we're not to discard any of her writings.
Was this Sister White? I can say you know why I say you go needs to move.
We're not to throw away.
You know why I say you
all of it is to be considered.
I was saying you shouldn't.
But we are to consider time and place.
Say you can say you was say you a brand of any BIA trust us.
When she says time and place, what she's talking about is historic context.
So I say a brand of any BIA now or Casafa about
We're to consider the time it was written and the place it was written.
There was a brand of any BIA now or trust us.
And that's what historic context is.
And then they can say about 7.
Right. On the subject of dress, what we employ is this concept when reading the passages. And we should always employ this concept when reading the scriptures and the spirit of prophecy. Which is saying, when this passage was written, 140 years ago,
140 years ago,
2,000 years ago,
2,000 years ago,
further back. Who was it written to? And what did it mean to those it was written to? Right, what was happening at that time? These are the type of things that we need to ask ourselves. With the Bible, Painting that picture is a lot of work. Because if you want to understand who it was written to and what was happening at that time, you have to look at other resources that can give you this information. You can get some of it from the Bible itself. You can get some of it from the spirit of prophecy. You can get some of it from the writings of the pioneers. As they wrote about the history of certain prophets and the history of God's people in different periods of time. You can look at other history books. Right, so it's more work. When it comes to understanding the historic context of a passage in the Bible. And it takes practice. What's usually useful to do, so you have an understanding of how to go about it, is to go through exercises like that as a group in study. Where you lay out the process, you say you have a verse. Let's identify.
Yes, again, I was a group study.
Right, let's get our devices. Let's begin to try to gather this information. Right, what did this verse mean to the people it was written to in that time? What was it talking about in that time? And then as you do that in a group setting, you can get a better picture of, okay, this is how it's done. So that's very important. Not to just sit and get lectured to all the time. We need to be doing more group studies, so that individually we have more confidence about how to work these things out. Right. So with the Bible, identifying historic context is more work.
It is
but with the spirit of prophecy, because it's more recent, it's usually not as hard. With the spirit of prophecy, it's a bit easier. Because a lot of the time she gives you the information about what was happening at that time. And there are other books in the White Estate that cover the history of Ellen White and the other pioneers. They're the biographical works that you find in the Act. And a lot of these things, they give you that information to better understand the historic context. An easy example of historic context is the subject of the daily. Right. I think, do we understand the daily?
Yes, the daily.
Right, the daily newspapers. What did Ellen White say about the daily?
Sister White
It was given to those.
Those who predicate our arrival were given a correct understanding.
She said that. But when people were, but other views of the daily were introduced. And people started to have an argument about what is the correct view of the daily. And when this argument started happening, what did Ellen White say? She says, don't argue about the daily. She said, leave that subject alone. Don't agitate it. So people will take that passage and when you're trying to say, look, you people, you have the correct view, you have the wrong view of the daily, this is the correct view. Those bring those passages. Ellen White says we shouldn't argue about it. Thus saith the Lord. Right, and then that passage is supposed to finish the. That they'll bring the passage. The discussion is supposed to finish there. Because they're given a thus saith the Lord. Usually that's how it happens, right? But then you have to ask yourself, what was happening at the time she said? You go and you look at the history. You realize that everyone was united under the correct view of the day. That is paganism. And there was a small group, just a handful of men. Just a handful of men who were trying to introduce this wrong view. So you realize that when she was saying, don't touch this subject, leave it alone. Focus on evangelism. She was saying, listen, this small group of people here, don't give them attention. Focus on the word. Right, that was the context. But today, 140 years later, it's a different situation. The entire church is on the wrong view. And the people who believe the correct view are just a small group. Can we read her saying that we shouldn't? Don't leave the subject alone. Can we read it the same way today? That means the same thing. We can't. Right, so we see that because looking at historic context, it affects how we understand God's word. So now we come to the subject of dress that we covered on Sabbath. Because the issue of pants came up. Right, we saw that in Deuteronomy it says a man shall not wear that which pertains to a woman. And we discussed how you can't just read it like that.
na ye go ka say ye no ma say ye ken kan sa.
You have to consider what was the context.
E was say ye hu asem no de
the time and place. When that passage was written, everyone was wearing skirts. So when we read it today, we can't read it as saying it means women can't wear pants. That time, everyone was wearing skirts. There were women's skirts and there were men's skirts. In the world today, in the public space, everyone wears pants. But there are women's pants and there are men's pants. So if you really want to correctly place that passage today, you're different. It's not. You cannot read it as saying it's saying women can't wear pants. Right. That was the example that we discussed. You see. So that is a correct use of the principle of historic context. When thinking about how to understand the passage. You see, but they don't like where that is going. They don't like where that is going, so they say, no, what did that say the Lord? But the very same people, on the subject of the daily, when you bring them those passages where Ellen White says, leave it alone. Those very same people will say, no, but the historic context. What was happening at that time? So you see, it's not consistent. Right, so however we approach it, we must be consistent. We can't then change because now we're being presented with things we don't want to hear. What time do you start?
7 minutes.
Huh?
11:15.
Oh, like 5:10.
You started, yeah, 10:15.
Okay. Okay, I have some quotations here. Dealing with this subject of historic context. But what I'll do is, I'll send the notes, and then they'll be posted in the group. Just as my notes from yesterday were posted in the group. Okay, yeah. So I hope that way then, because I won't read these quotes. In summary, this is just a basic study. Of the context of dispensation and historic context as part of the methodology for how to understand the truth. Or as part of the methodology we used to read the Bible in order to understand the truth. We saw that dispensationalism it's important. It's through this concept, or rather, this concept has been important in how we've understood the relationship of men and women in our time. It's also been in concept important in understanding how we've understood how the new understandings about dress reform that were having. It's also they're also important concepts in relation to the subject of the Sunday law. Right, and we've shown that those who are rejecting the light on equality, dress reform, the Sunday law, because those are the examples we've been talking about, that they're not being consistent. We've tried to show that these are sound and valid concepts. And we use them already. They're being applied to open up new light to us now. And because people don't like this new light, they're rejecting these concepts that we've always used. And we show that to reject the use of these concepts in the subject of gender or the Sunday law. It's inconsistent. For me personally, apart from just lies, that's my biggest problem with the messages that are coming out of Future for America right now. It's the methodology. Right, it's the methodology that's being employed. And there are many problems with the methodology. But I wanted to keep it at a basic level so we can see that they're inconsistent. Right. All right. So I have a few more thoughts to share on dispensationalism. Because I want us to see that this shaking over this issue that's happening now, and how we relate to the scriptures, it's not a new thing. We see it in the line of Christ. Right. So I want us to look at the line of Christ just as we did in our studies yesterday. For understanding of this issue. Okay, so I think we'll stop there. I see we're tired. And we've covered a lot of things. Let's go to prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you for your word. And Lord, we thank you for this clear light that you're opening up to us. Please help every soul in this room to understand in the ability that you've given them and to be confirmed in these truths. For Lord, we have tests that are ongoing and tests that are coming. We ask that you may navigate us through safely, that the work here may be placed on a firm and solid footing to do your will in the years to come, in the waymarks to come, and in the prophecy to unfold. We thank you for the blessing of this camp. We ask that today may go smoothly, as with the rest of the camp. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.